Well, hi everybody. How are you? Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle, here for Thursday, the 14th of March, which would make tomorrow the Ides of March. I have to admit that the Ides of March is I don't know who their publicity guy is, but you got to figure one event uh, over 2,000 years ago, and we're still talking about it. That's just pretty amazing, actually, for a one-off. Anyway, here we are. Don't have a super long time tonight. My beautiful wife and I are heading to Orange County. We have a speaking event, and thought we'd beat the traffic down there. We've set all the booby traps in the house and all of the, well, you'll see when you get there. So I hope everybody is doing well. It's good to be back. It's good to get a firewall back. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to be working on doing those regularly, but Scott Ott is coming out to LA on Sunday, and we'll have a chance to talk some more. But I understand that there are a number of people watching from the new website, and that it's actually going pretty well. So that makes me happy, and it's all Scott's put so much work into it. It's a shame we'll have to fire him after this, and then go to a new website. But anyway, it's good to be back. So I don't have anything really burning up the wires, and it's been two shows where I really didn't get to a whole lot of questions. So I think I'm just gonna jump in there, and we'll go for as long as we possibly can here. So let's see what we got. Starting with top fan Steve Young. I'm just going to read them in the order in which they are displayed unto me. There's most relevant. They used to have it, but you could do it by rating. You can't even do it by that anymore. Most relevant, newest, or all comments. Well, we'll go with most relevant. Steve Young asks, has Sabo done any art hits on AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? If he has, I don't know about it. But while he's a great guy, and I've met at many occasions, he doesn't let me preview his work. I can imagine that he would be that she would be high on his website, high on his list of targets, and it's just so cool, having somebody on our team who's just, who really gets it, just cutting edge, bleeding edge, cool. So I'm sorry to have to say, Steve, I don't have any idea about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. So let me move on to the next one here. Corey Langsley. The college scandal is just starting with 55 people. The guy at the center singer has said he did this over 700 times. Should the students be immediately expelled? I say yes, if the penalties are pretty steep for fraud, mail, bribery, and collusion. Are we going to see real justice given out to the rich and pretty and famous, or is it all going to be BS and guys like me who paid for every college credit at the community college and state university going to watch another batch of wealthy bastards get away with corrupting the system? So I'm going to assume, although I have not been up on this story super close, that we're talking about this business where movie stars and other wealthy people basically not only bought admissions into universities, but I'm sure bought good grades. And I say, yay! Yay! I think just another cause for celebration and another reason to feel more optimistic. I'm feeling more optimistic every day. I feel more optimistic every day because every day, with the restraints loosened on them for whatever reason, I guess maybe it's just because we're now in like ninth wave feminism and, fourth wave Antifa and 26th wave, how many letters are there now after LGBT? There's 13 or something. We're still on first wave conservatism, by the way, because pretty much you get it right the first time, and once you get it, you just kind of stick to it. But the thing makes me happy. It actually makes me very happy. Makes me happy when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talks about socialism and bringing it to the country. Makes me happy when Bernie Sanders is outflanked to the left, and basically all of the emotional support that used to go to him is now going to AOC. He's a better charlatan than she is. She's not a very good charlatan. She's just a gift to the Republican Party. It makes me happy when the left just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. What was the example from a day or two ago? Once again, the Academy Awards are a great example. Kevin Hart, no, he made a comment one point in the past, and the thought police descended upon him and made their solemn ruling, so he was out. And then they couldn't find anybody who apparently has not been politically correct since the moment they emerged from their mother's womb. So since there's no one politically correct enough or left-wing enough to host the Academy Awards, they had to go without them. And this is where you just get an example of just how pardon the expression, how unsustainable this progressivism is. It's just unsustainable. Because conservatism is generally, mind your own business and go out, and if you want to work hard, make yourself wealthy, you'll make other people wealthy too, but that's not why you're doing it. You basically can go out there and make your life better, and you do make life better for everybody. But when your philosophy is all about taking things, and in order to take things, you need the fig leaf of victimhood as an excuse, and when your entire political philosophy is based on the victimhood food chain and hierarchy, then just like with Highlander, there can only be one. There can only be one ultimate victim, and watching them struggle to reach that point makes me extremely happy. Viggo Mortensen, who I just absolutely adore, he's a great actor. I love him in everything he's been in. He's just tremendous. Needless to say, in The Lord of the Rings, a really, really enormously important character to me, and I'm very, very fond of the actor. I remember him just before or just after the invasion of Iraq in 2003, right after Lord of the Rings, the third one came out. He was wearing a no blood for oil T-shirt or something, and I just thought, why do they all have to be so, dumb? But I remember thinking, well, he's a gigantic progressive, and he is. So he wins. I don't know. He didn't win Best Actor. The movie he was in, Green Book, won Best Picture, and the producers had the gall to say that we don't think this could happen without Viggo. Viggo saved Lord of the Rings. They had another Aragorn, shot a bunch of scenes with another Aragorn. Just terrible. He went in there and worked with all the extras, and all of the guys who were playing the orcs and the Uruk-hai just loved him and loved him. Just by all accounts, just a great guy. There's a scene in The Two Towers where they're looking for Merry and Pippin, and they come upon this mound of dead orcs that the Rohirrim have just slain, and he's looking around and he kicks this helmet, and out of frustration. Because they've been literally running for like 3 days after these guys. And he actually broke his toe on that take. And you can see it on his face. But he broke his toe and didn't just go down, It just was like, oh, my toe. No, he manned up and hung in there. So anyway, he's not just an actor. He's a kind of a guy who really can pull a movie together. And when they mentioned it, then all of a sudden, Viggo and everybody else starts getting this avalanche of criticism because this story of a black man and a white man becoming friends gives Americans the wrong idea that racism is something that's in the past. And so the movie about black and white guys working together, which goes immediately to Charlotte, where one person was killed, then that's the movie that should have won, and Spike Lee said so. He said, we don't, he said they made the wrong call. What class? What class? You know, I didn't win Best Picture. I'm effusive when I win Best Screenplay. I don't win Best Picture. I'm going to storm out of the room. Then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be studiously looking away from the stage, right? I'm not going to even look at the stage to show how awful this decision was on the part of the Academy. So far, so good. So, who's Spike Lee protesting against? Who is Spike Lee, acting out at? It's not like Donald Trump made the decision, and it's not like there are any Republicans or conservatives watching the show even. He was basically playing the black card on the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which has been played before with great success. So the most left-wing people in the country cannot produce a show that is left-wing enough for the people who they're going to invite to the show. I mean, I can't stand Spike Lee, and I've never seen anything particularly outstanding about his films either. I mean, he's a competent filmmaker, but I've never seen anything that made me say, "Wow, that is a Spike Lee movie." But put that aside. Maybe he's a great filmmaker. He's always been kind of a racist and a bigot. None of this bothers me. It makes me happy. It makes me happy. I love watching the look on people's faces, like Viggo, who gets a pass from me because of the work he's done. But nevertheless, here's Viggo. He's 10 years ago wearing a 20. Who am I kidding? 15 years ago, he's wearing a No Blood for Oil shirt that I think he probably put on with a magic marker to show how down he was with the cause. And now he's being called part of the racist problem because he's the white guy who's getting credit for this movie about this black man and this movie that featured a black actor who went on to win the Best Supporting Actor award. That movie is just vilified and utterly condemned all across the Twitterverse and everything. And I just now I'm at the point, I'm way past the point of being surprised. First I was surprised, then I was appalled, and then I was angry, and now I'm amused. And I'm just getting more and more amused every day. I love it. I love watching it. I love watching, these feminist icons being destroyed by these same young monsters that are trying to destroy everybody else. I love seeing, I love seeing Nancy Pelosi being called not liberal enough by the monsters that she and her philosophy have created. It makes me happy. It makes me happy, first of all, because they're terrible people. And while I don't want any physical harm to come to anybody, because I do have a conscience and a soul, I do deeply wish for them to be humiliated out of their own miserable policies that have destroyed so many lives. But I love watching Nancy Pelosi being pilloried for not being left-wing enough. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez you will live to see it, will be criticized for not being left-wing enough or radical enough. And on it goes. So basically, this last Academy Awards show, which I didn't watch and neither did anybody else, but this last Academy Awards show was really the end of the Academy Awards. What's the point? Conservatives gave up on it 20 years ago, and progressives can't even attend their own show without complaining about how it's not progressive enough. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. But back to the university thing. When I read just the top line before I opened it up and I saw the term college scandal, the college scandal is much bigger than this. But it is, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Let's just say that when I found out that movie stars and wealthy liberals were buying their kids into exclusive schools and buying their grades, let's just say I didn't fall out of my chair with astonishment. This is the kind of people they are, and this is ultimately it. I mean, movie stars are the most visible of the progressives, but it's true for all progressives. They're all the same way. The top level politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Obama, and he's actually, it's like, you remember him? Remember him vaguely? Uh, they, here's the thing. I've talked many times about how the greatest thing about being a conservative and a spokesman for conservative values is I don't have to be a hypocrite. I don't have to say one thing and then wink and then do the other thing. You get to say one thing, do the same thing. That's a very good feeling. And I've often talked about how liberals don't, progressives don't have, they can't do that. They have to tell people other than what they believe in. But it's just dawned on me just now, thinking about it, that because they've lived a lie, and I've known that they've been living a lie for forever. But it just really, for the first time, dawned on me just how rotten a person you have to be in order to be living a lie for your entire life. And that's when I realized, not for the first time, that's when I realized that if you've got to be, if you're an awful enough person to publicly say I want higher taxes, and then tell your accountant to get the best tax break you can, and if you openly say I don't think there should be walls, borders, doors of any kind, and then you have a private security army to make sure nobody steps on your property, all these contradictions. In order to do that, you have to be a really, really awful person. And now we get to the point, which is, wow, this progressivism sure does make a lot of awful people, but that's not it at all. The motivation. Here's what drives progressivism. Progressivism is a political philosophy designed to make really awful people feel better about themselves, and mediocre intelligences to feel like they're somehow smarter than everybody else. They simply just, it's not that progressivism makes bad people. It's just that bad people are attracted to this philosophy because it's a get out of jail free card for them, morally and intellectually. And so when you watch this thing being let loose, it causes a certain amount of satisfaction. And there are people, I'm not happy about the damage that's being done at all. But I am looking forward to talking to somebody who calls himself an open socialist after what we're seeing in Venezuela. More reports about how the Scandinavian countries are essentially just collapsing. And then there's Portland and San Francisco, which are just horrible. I saw that a health inspector said that the streets of San Francisco, which was once a pretty decent weekly TV drama, that the streets of San Francisco are more of a danger in terms of disease and filth vectors. That that this is, that there are scientists that go around in Center for Disease Control and World Health Organization and all the rest, and they basically go through towns and measure how much bacteria is just in the general environment, in the water, on doors, on lampposts, and all the rest of it. And this guy said San Francisco is far more filthy than Nairobi, Istanbul, Cairo, far more. And since this philosophy is so counter reality, and since it's all based on virtue signaling, and since there's no end to virtue signaling, since the virtue signaling has to continue and you have to keep topping people in terms of, what's the point of being a progressive if you don't get to tell everybody how much better you are than everybody else? So they cannot stop. See, this is the thing that actually is making me feel much, much better lately. Yes, it's been growing and it's been getting worse, but as it mutates and continues to run, the inevitable consequences of this philosophy become more and more clear. And then after the consequences become clear, then the motivation becomes clear. So San Francisco and just the bags of human feces or not just bags, just human feces on the street. So how does this work? What's the dynamic? This is how I think it works. You've got liberals that live in San Francisco, and they like it because it's a beautiful city, and they don't have to put up with 7-Eleven. So far, so good if you're one of those horrible control freak people. Okay, so you keep electing more and more progressives to the city council. Great. And they start getting more and more progressive in terms of the city's policies. And you think, great. And then they start doing things like, we want to be a sanctuary city for illegal aliens. And that makes you feel great because you're doing something really good for poor brown people who've been oppressed by the Yankees for so long. When I say doing good for them, I don't mean doing actual good for them. Certainly not sending them money or giving them a place to live, because that would be, actual commitment. But when I say doing something good for them, what I mean is telling people that they're doing something good for them. So they have these politicians that say that San Francisco should be a haven for illegal aliens, and you get a lot of illegal aliens. It says we should be a haven for the homeless because we're morally superior to everybody else. And so it becomes a destination for the homeless. And now it starts to get to be kind of fun. Now the people that have voted for all of these policies are now surrounded by a lot of crime, a lot of violence. Haight-Ashbury is apparently an extremely violent place now, just lots of fights going on. And these progressives are looking around at each other and they're saying things are worse, but they can't admit they're worse. And so they simply just suck it up and they say, well, at least we're doing, the right thing. And then these progressives who they've elected over time, which become more, it's a strain that just becomes more and more virulent with every election. Now, the city says, well, we're not. It's racist, it's classist, and everything else to force people to defecate in private. If you don't have a home, how can you be expected to defecate in private? And so we're going to no longer make it a crime just to drop your pants and take a crap on the streets of San Francisco. See how morally advanced we are? And now they're trapped. They've always been trapped. Once you buy into this philosophy, there's no getting out of it. So now they have to agree to this too, because the guilt card and the victimhood card that they have backed for so long is now being played against them. And now these people are walking through their neighborhoods, which are suddenly not, groovy places anymore with little coffee shops. Now they're violent places, and there's just endless deposits of human filth on the sidewalks. There's a website that you call and hope to get the city to come and remove this stuff. And I think somebody said they get $20 an hour or something like that. People just taking photographs and posting it, saying, hey, here's the corner of this and this. Can somebody come clean it up, please? Okay, so we can't come clean it up. Why? Because we don't have enough money. The city doesn't have enough money. Really? No. We're very strapped for funds. Your tax base is Silicon Valley. You've got the richest people in the country there. It's one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in. What do you mean you don't have enough money? We just don't have enough money to do it. We need more money. And then what happens is, then the progressives, the rich progressives, who are the ones that have bought into this philosophy and who elected like the Pelosi's and the Jerry Browns and all the mid-level progressives, then looking around at what's become of their lives, they decide that they can no longer live in San Francisco because San Francisco is populated by people who are, in many cases, just plain bark and mad and need to be in mental institutions. But when they're not, they're knifing people and mugging them and going through their trash and crapping on their doorsteps. And so they leave. And all of this is perfectly understandable. And it's also, this is also understandable from their point of view. So they go to some clean place like Boise, let's say, and they're out with the squares in red country, and they keep expecting to see all the racism. They don't see it. Doesn't matter. They're progressive, so they start voting like progressives. And as more and more of them leave San Francisco and move to places like Boise, they get more and more support, and they keep voting for the policies that turn San Francisco into what it is. And now they're going to try and turn Boise into what San Francisco was. At which point they will then pull up stakes and go somewhere else. It is literally fouling your own campsite. I mean, that's really just the literal definition of it. The literal definition of don't foul your own campsite is don't, crap where you eat. So they've had these policies that have put this stuff in place in San Francisco and in Portland. In Portland, they're letting Antifa direct traffic. There's a video of this nasty, typical early 20s fat chick dressed in black, and she's cut her hair with a lawnmower, and she says, "Turn left over here." And the guy says, "Who are you to tell me what to do? Just do it." And so when he doesn't do it, then they bang on his car and scream and tell him what a Nazi he is for asking what authority this mob was ruling the streets by. That's the Nazi way, is to question authority. And so Portland's unlivable, and there you go. Now, one extra special, delicious nicety about this is, since this has been happening for 30 or 40 years, and I got out here in the late 80s, even in the late 80s, there were bumper stickers that said, "Don't Californicate Oregon." So from the 80s, Californians have been moving up to Oregon and turned it into what it is now. And now the progressives are, the Antifa progressives and all the rest of these the homeless people are not bad people in most cases. They're just mentally disturbed or facing severe addiction. I'm talking about the Antifa radicals. Those people are not nice people. And now they're defacing cars. When somebody moved into a house in Oregon and had California tags on there, and they basically said, go back to California and get the hell out of here. You you California conservatives, you. So when major cities like San Francisco and Portland decide that they're not going to enforce the law, you begin to see what life under this progressive ideology looks like. And it looks like needles and human feces on the streets that used to be beautiful. And the faster this happens, the better it is. I was thinking about this too when I was looking at some of these pictures from Portland and stuff. And I realized, letting people do what they want in public. I'm all about letting people do what they want in private. It's none of my business. But letting people just simply do what they want in public, block traffic, tell people to turn left or right, it's so much less effort than it is to actually run something. And this is another reason why I'm feeling much better lately. The reason we're fighting this policy is because this policy is the policy of chaos and lawlessness. That's why people tend to drift in that direction. The grass grows and gravity pulls things down, and Russ never sleeps. But it's so much more easier to have chaos than it is to have order. It's a lot less pleasant, but it's a lot less work. And this is ultimately what this whole thing is about. When you really get down to it, if you really, really look at what these progressives have in common, I really think this is the single great unifier of all people who are really progressive, is they're fundamentally lazy. They don't really do anything. They're the kind of people that are just constantly, their job is to protest. I mean, really, that's the occupation. We were looking at what was it on the right angle? We were looking at the socialist dating site in New York, and it was run by two women. One who was 35, who is a graduate student, not a teacher, still a student at 35, living in college, and the other one occupation was listed as organizer. And what does that mean? So yeah, Red Yenta, thank you. So what does that mean? It's which do you think is harder to do, being an engineer or being an organizer? You don't even have to do anything to be an organizer. You just claim you're an organizer. Um, I don't. I've been meant to link a couple of these, and I'll do it in the near future. But I don't know if any of you've seen this guy's one of my favorite guys on the internet. Um, it's called Ultra Spiritual Life, and the guy, I think the web channel is Awaken with JP. But basically, this guy's a red-haired, long-haired hippie, and he's a comedian, and he's got to be pretty conservative because he does the best job of deconstructing how this thing works, how they think. It's Awaken with JP, and it's got Ultra Spiritual Life, and basically he he says how like typical example of his shows would be how to become gluten intolerant. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look up a couple of the titles just to give you an idea. I can't recommend him highly enough. He's very funny, and it's so basically it's watching a progressive be a progressive, and he talks about the actual motives. He says that the reason you should not pay attention to your children is the more you ignore them, the easier they are to control, and then it just gets better and better and better from there. He talks about the advantages of passive aggressiveness and all of this stuff. Let me just see here. Sorry. It's spacebar. I'm going to have to unbind that. Um, anyway, now we have audio back. Um, so I'm looking at his things, and it's like the Craigslist shaman. So he talks about he basically is a shaman, pretends to be a shaman, talking to clients about what he's going to offer them for $19,999, and he's offering them what these Craigslist shamans really do offer them. That's why it's so good. Um, how to become gluten intolerant. Uh, Hang on. I think my favorite is if meat eaters acted like vegans. That's very, very good. How to get Instagram famous. Oh, this is the one I wanted to post. Was how to get offended, and it's great. The um, the how to be offended video is just absolutely perfect. He's just the thought process is like, first of all, you find yourself without a job a lot of times. Secondly, find somebody you don't know anything about. Third, accuse them of being the worst creatures on the earth. Demand their on and on. It's great. It's really, really good. So I recommend that very highly. But so anyway, the college thing. I'm happy to hear it. I made a decision. I want to say a little over a year and a half ago, that I was not going to do universities anymore unless it was a specifically conservative school, because I'd seen it for I'd done 4 or 5 years of just eye rolling and virtue signaling, but being shouted down is just it's not like it's not like it's simply a waste of my time, and I'm not going to give them the satisfaction, and I am looking forward to um, colleges, universities. They're going the way of the dinosaur. They are um, they're obsolete. JP has one about having a college degree, and how it should be given him. How is he supposed to feel superior to other people since he's got his college degree when he can't get a job other than as a barista? So it's all just kind of coming apart because it has to. It has to come apart. Socialism has to come apart. You can't give away stuff for free. Progressivism has to come apart because you cannot make a career by not doing anything. They're just plain done. And I say good riddance. So just imagine my shock. Now, when the entire university system does actually collapse, and it will, then I suspect that out of the ashes will come a collection of either online or private entities that will have the radical idea of providing an education at as low a price as possible, free of political indoctrination, because I suspect there's a market for that. So there you go. And as Roy Hamill points out, you can make a career from not doing anything. Reference AOC. Yeah, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had a little time as a bartender. Bernie Sanders has 3 houses. He's never had an actual job in his life. Barack Obama had worked for a short period of time in a fast food joint, but that was the only job he ever had. And they just simply don't do anything. And as a person who is a theater major, I can tell you that it's a lot more fun and a lot easier to be in a field where you don't have to do anything. Good acting is hard, and good production and good writing, all that's not easy. But in terms of what the day looks like, it ain't medicine or engineering. You know, it's not rocket surgery. It's politics for lazy people, and for people who are lazy and want other people's stuff, and people who are kind of stupid but want to feel smart. Pretty simple, really. Moving on. Hey, look at this. Looks like I got these things are restacking, but I will just take Jesus. Eric has got 3 here. So I'm going to pick one here. From Eric Blake. Oh, God, it's an entire novel. I can't read that. I can't read that. It's too long, and I don't have really got my glasses on. And this other one's kind of long. I'm sorry, Eric. They're all 5-paragraph questions, and I just can't answer. I just can't read them. So let's see. Moving down to Steve Young again. Hey, have Natasha and Bert met? How's Bert? Bert and Natasha have met. Bert is apparently doing well. I haven't seen him in quite a while. Almost a little over 2 years now, I guess. And I miss him very much. I miss going to Idaho very much. Just haven't had a chance to get up there. But he's working on the ski gull, last I heard, which is what he's calling his final design. And it's the first time he's ever tackled a seaplane. I'm sure I've mentioned that in the past, that he kind of brain, he's such a bright guy, and it's so much fun being around him. He'll often ask things in kind of a riddle or a question. He'll say, name the 10 different launch systems that occurred during the 1960s. Or anyway, he once said, okay, so I've got this airplane. I'm going to fly it from Hawaii to Los Angeles, and I can do it without flying at night. And it's like, we did the math on how fast this thing was, and it just can't be done. 5-hour flight at 500 miles an hour. At 200 miles an hour, it's a longer flight. So we just couldn't figure it out. We were really doing things like International Dateline and so on. And basically his answer was no. I fly until it gets dark. I only go during calm weather. Fly until it gets dark. Land on the ocean. stretch out a hammock between the sponsons, have put up a radar reflector in case there are any cargo ships out there, and then get myself a lovely evening. And then when the sun comes up in the morning, I fire up and take off again. I thought, well, now how about that? Isn't that something? So anyway, I have not much else to add about that, Steve. They have met, and I love being up there, and I loved going there with Natasha. I love going anywhere with Natasha. My travel used to be just, well, I always had a good time up in CDA, but what used to be just like great example. So tomorrow I've got an event in Orange County. We're going to go down the night before because I have to be there at 10 in the morning, and that would take a 1 hour drive into a 4-hour drive, and I'd just rather not do it. But it is just like everything else in my life, just so much better. It's just, I don't know how I just don't know how I ever lived without her. I really don't. I just don't. Let's see here. Rough Riders. That's a little long too. Let's see, Patrick Reed. Oops, sorry. These 3 or 4 paragraph questions. No disrespect or anything, but I just can't do them. So let's see. I'm sorry. Let's go back and look at this again. Come on, Facebook, you miserable. Okay. I'm just going to look at what's at the front page now. Merlin and then Matthew Lloyd. So let's start with Merlin. I have a friend, before I go on with this, let's see. That's manageable, I guess. I have a friend who, if you catch him in an unguarded moment, is quite conservative. But if you tell him that what he's saying is conservative, he totally flips sides and rants about the evils of Trump and capitalism and Bernie is God. And it has gotten to the point we can't talk about anything political because he's so enamored with his leftist programming. The question is, how do we break past the brainwashing and bring out the conservatism that is the core of so many potential walk-away candidates? That's a good question. One of the reasons that he can't stand to talk about it, and the reason he gets so upset, Merlin, emotional, gets churned up in a way that you don't, is by talking politics with him, you're presenting him with a series of contradictions that he can't process. You're actually putting him in a position of cognitive dissonance. You're arguing things that make sense, like I like to keep my own stuff, and he says I like to keep my own stuff too. And then you say, but that's not the philosophy you're talking about. Philosophy you're voting for is talking about taking other people's stuff and giving it away. Why don't you give some of your stuff away? And at this point, it's like they just go into vapor lock, and they can't cope with it. And that's why there's this hatred of conservatism on the part of progressives. And I don't mean hatred just for the ideas or Donald Trump or anything. I mean this idea that you have to be shouted down, locked out of the campus. You have to be physically intimidated, beaten up. You wear a hat, and instead of, it's a hat, and people come across the room and assault you. They're coming across the room and assaulting you because that hat is basically pointing out to them that their philosophy is nonsense. The hat is the boy on the end of the parade saying he's not wearing any clothes. The hat is a negation of everything. We're good, thanks. Yep, thanks. Take care. And that's why they have to assault it, because it puts them into an emotional crisis. It's an emotional crisis. They cannot. Orwell understood this better than anybody, and he understood it because he was a socialist for so long. But Orwell was talking about how, because 1984 is INGSOC, English socialism. If you're going to live in a totalitarian socialist state, how do you survive? That's the question about 1984. How do you survive if you've got a brain? The proles, the Big Brother doesn't give a damn about the proles. They just live in these little dirty communities, and they have 15 children work in factories. they don't care about them. They're parts for their machine. So, but anybody with any kind of a brain, how do you control these people? And what Orwell was so good at pointing out was you control them with fear. Okay, so far so good, but how does that modify your behavior? And he said that what it does is it forces you into a mindset where you believe two contradictory things at the same time, and you learn to disregard the evidence of your own eyes, because if you go with the evidence of your own eyes, you'll be taken out and shot. So it is a form of like mental surrender, and it's Stockholm syndrome. It's somebody's got a gun to your head telling you to do things, so you do them, and over time, that's what the idea of doublethink was. Doublethink was the ability to say, we've always been at war with East Asia. No, we've never been at war with East Asia. No, you're right. We've never been at war with East Asia. Do you ever remember saying that we were at war with Eurasia? No, we've always been at war with East Asia. And you have to learn how to do that. And that's what they do. Again and again and again. They just plain, everything in their life is a contradiction. And my personal experience, the best example of that is the kids with the cell phones. You're all about redistributing wealth. Okay, you've got a lot of wealth on you. You're wealthy college kids. Let's go redistribute some of your wealth. They won't do it. That's doublethink. Doublethink. And that's why they react so strongly to people like Ben Shapiro and all the rest of these guys out there, Jordan Peterson, Mike Knowles. They're all out there. They're all out there presenting them with the evidence of their insanity, and it puts an irresolvable emotional stress on them. By the way, if you really want to see this in motion, and I mean a lot of motion, have I read? Steve just saw this. Have you read the Gulag Archipelago? Yes, I have. I have read the Gulag Archipelago. I'm sure by now most of you know who Jigglypuff is. That's the enormously fat college student who was yelling and screaming at somebody. I don't know if it was probably Milo, I guess, at the time. But she's just, get your hate speech off my campus. Get your hate speech off my campus. Get your hate speech off my campus. And it's really worth watching, not just to bask in it, but it's worth watching because it tells you something actually very important. If you look at that clip, what you'll see is she's very calm. Somebody says something. She starts chanting, and she means it. This is not like hired people who come in and chant for $4 an hour, get bussed in from Chicago. She's filled with this rage, and the second that the topic changes, she just simply goes back to perfect calm. And she does it repeatedly. And what I'm saying is, her emotional state is going from 0 to 100 in an eighth of a second. And that's alone a little impressive, but sometimes you can do things that make you angry. But she's going from 100 to 0 in an eighth of a second, which means that since she is actually this emotional about it, it means that her mind is so fluid and her emotions are so out of control that no matter what the particular topic of this particular sentence is, it's going to drive her emotional hysteria. And that's what it is. It's hysteria. It's hysteria. All of it is childishness. All of it. The laziness is childishness. The filth is childishness. Lack of discipline. Lack of the ability to delay gratification. All of it. It's just plain childishness. They're children, and they just plain. And you can't. And I understand the country's in danger, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. But it's collapsing so fast that's really, really good news. And referring to the topic of last couple of weeks, I'm not going to spend any time on that, but when movies become blockbusters based on a bunch of college students forming a committee and then launching a protest against the university, when that's the kind of movie that people are going to go see in large numbers, then it's time to get worried. But that's not what's happening. Nobody wants to tell those stories. They don't want to tell those stories because it's anti-biological, and that gives me some real hope. In terms of an actual practical solution, Merlin, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe just spend some time and it's clear that he's got this emotional reaction, and a lot of it's got to do with words like Republican and conservative and all that stuff. Maybe you could talk to him about what a completely new political party would look like, you know, Vectronism. If we were to just put together a party platform, just the two of us, what would we put in there? I bet you find that if you were talking about making Vectronism, he'd be a lot more willing to put in stuff that's actually conservatism, because he's so emotionally invested in fighting conservatives and Republicans, because Republicans and conservatives put him in a position of having to face his doublethink. So that's that. Top fan and known miscreant Matthew Lloyd would like to know, with SpaceX set to establish colonies on Mars in the near future, would you be interested in being one of the pioneers pushing the boundaries of humanity forward across our solar system, or would you prefer to visit Mars as a tourist only? Needless to say, for my entire life, I would have wanted to be one of the people pushing the boundaries and being one of the pioneers. I think that's kind of feel like on some level that's what it was built for. But that was before I got married. And this is not a question of like, oh, these are now my shackles. On the contrary, it's like, after I see the change in my, just the overall change in my emotional state after getting married, I understand why. I mean, I wasn't out there doing stuff that was quite that dangerous, but flying experimental airplanes and having 3 engine failures that's a high risk occupation. And I did it for 10 years, and I loved it. And I loved it because I didn't have anything to lose. I really didn't. I really didn't have anything to lose. And now I do. So watching, just constantly, just can't get enough military history. I was just today finished reading a book about the first day on the Somme. And this kind of thing has to be done by young men. And it's just the way that young men are. And I was a teenager until I was 56. And then suddenly I had to be an adult. And I'm still trying to figure that out, as she will tell you. But this is the thing that's so strange for me. I had 1,000 hours instrument rating, and I met Natasha, and then I just didn't have any desire to go flying anymore. It wasn't like I was worried, and it wasn't like she was asking me not to. On the contrary, she went for a couple rides. I just had no interest in going. The plane just sat in the hangar for 13 months. And I realized that that flying was a substitute for some aspect of my life that wasn't really being fulfilled. And look, I still think exploration is great. And if I found myself alone again, I would do it, because then I wouldn't have anything to live for, come back for. But now I do. So now I'm going to watch young men go and do it, because I'm going to be 60 next month, and if the thing gets to a reasonable degree of safety, I think I would go as a tourist. But if I go as a tourist, I got to have I got to get 2 tickets. So that would be the condition of it. Getting over the disappointment of of the space program is it's just something that's taken me a long time to get used to, and and I no longer miss it the way I thought I would. So so it's time to do good things here. I think I have to say, and this is certainly not any surprise to my wife, but um, I spend, I'm talking about time off now, when I'm home after, leaving here at 5 or 6, 7 in the evening, whatever. I'll spend an hour or two usually flying around and looking at strange new worlds, but I'm sitting with dual sticks and rudder pedals, and I'm getting 60 frames a second of what looks like flying, and um, I do a lot of what the game calls uh, decoupled landings. And what I mean by that is, it's possible in that Star Citizen game for you to uh, fly the ship like a airplane, push it, go forward, turn and bank, and all the rest. But you can decouple it, and then all of a sudden, these spaceships have they have actual laws of physics, so that you are on a vector. It doesn't matter which way your nose is pointing anymore, and you've got to adjust that vector. And I just, ever since I started playing this thing a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, almost 2 years, almost, I just spend a lot of time doing decoupled landings. I like looking out the window and seeing a little tiny little landing strip out there, and I'm heading towards it, and I'm watching my descent rate. It's all visual. I don't have any instruments for this. And I cut the descent a little bit, and then I just side slip to the left there. Good. Get her forward, slow her down, slow her down, slow her down. Let's cut the descent rate a little bit. Get it pretty much right over the pad. Okay, zero forward velocity, nose down, get it level. And then just before you hit the ground, just a little pop on the thruster, just a little twist, and cushions these landings. And that fulfills some enormous part of me. And usually, if I'm really wired from a day at work, I'll just go and spend an hour in Arena Commander and just do nothing but shoot down bad guys at extreme long range. And this is something I've had in me since I was a little kid. I can't tell you how many hours of flight simulators I've spent. Spent. It's got to be tens of thousands of hours, at least that, I would think. Uh, and and whether it's in biplanes or whether it's in World War II fighters like a Corsair, or whether it's in an F-16 simulator, or whether it's in a spaceship simulator, all of them are doing, at least what the things that I enjoy, they're doing pretty much the same thing. And what it is it's a targeting solution. It's there's some part of my brain that just absolutely is addicted to pulling lead on a target and putting lead on that target. And it doesn't matter if it's a biplane that's flying at 100 miles an hour or a spaceship's flying 1,000 miles an hour. It's still a question of where is that vehicle going to be when my shots arrive, and where do I have to put the shots so he will fly into them. And some part of my brain, it's a very deep level thing because I don't think about it. It's just relaxing for me to go in there and just blow up probably 200-300 guys a day. Doesn't take me too long, maybe an hour. And it really fulfills something and the sense of landing. And that sense of I am actually flying. I can go here. I can go there. I can just go, and I get to fly over terrain that's more interesting than Southern California is, because I've seen all of Southern California in 1,000 hours. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. So that has a big, enormous calming effect on me. That's how I calm down, is get out there and just light the afterburners, pickle a target, pull lead on him, and watch him explode. So, um, okay, I will. Um, I'm going to, and by the way, I'm done with this question, so it's a good place to move on. I'm going to look for. It's always interesting stuff that comes in here, and sometimes when I'm talking, people have to wave and shout. So the comment in the comment stream is from DFRSS, defers, and the question is, I'm moving to the USA. I find out from somebody else waving their arms from Lithuania. Moving to the USA into Tennessee. Any advice on starting the file from scratch? He's a 28-year-old vet. Um, wow. Well, first of all, welcome home. That's the first thing I will say to you. Uh, if you've been watching these shows, it's not for the production values. There's something about this freedom philosophy that resonates with you, and that means that you're an American that was born overseas, and they're my favorite kind of Americans. Uh, my wife is one of those, and many of the finest people I know are people who've come here, and so first of all, welcome, and welcome home, and it's uh, it's going to be an interesting challenge for you. First of all, going to Tennessee, unless you're going to like right in the heart of what is it, Nashville, I guess, or not Nashville. Uh, Tennessee's a pretty conservative state. Um, so so here's let me see if I can give you an idea of the good stuff and the bad stuff. Um, let's start with the bad stuff. Uh, I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet. And Tennessee is not California, uh, but um, you may experience a fair amount of what my wife experienced and continues to experience, and that is that the place is going to be dirtier than you thought. Uh, Again, I can't speak for Tennessee. Every time I leave LA, even to Orange County, I'm astonished at how much cleaner things are when I get out of this county. But coming from Lithuania, you have there's something about the scale of Europe and the fact that it's relatively closely packed and that it's been inhabited for thousands of years. That there's a tidiness and a neatness to Europe, and there was until they decided to open the borders. But there may be times when you're a little you might just be a little shocked at how little we seem to put like city resources into things like just cleaning things up. The politics in this country, no matter where you are, are now just a giant scam. It's just a get rich scheme by and large. It wasn't always this way, but it's getting this way. Um, I think probably your biggest challenge. I didn't get your name, by the way. If you'd like to put it up there, that'd be great. But I think your biggest challenge will likely be um, the fact that there's so many things here that you're responsible for on your own. This is certainly Natasha's impression, and it overwhelms me too. Julius, perfect. Welcome. That's great. What a great name. Hey, I opened the show by talking about the Ides of March, and I said nothing big has happened since then, but now we have another one. Uh, Excellent. Well, welcome home, Julius. So, one thing you may find uh, is that since there's kind of a foundation of freedom here, there there is a lack of supplied structure. Let's put it that way. There is structure that is often present in terms of social programs and details and all kinds of things. Like, for example, if you live in Britain, for example, or France or whatever, you have the national health system there, and that's what it is. You get your card and you go down and you do it. Here, you're going to have, scores of different opportunities to find private health insurance, and you're going to have to figure out which one you want. You're going to have to make the payments every month. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you go down to the doctor's and he's covered, but this other doctor's not on your plan. And then you have this test, and then the test has a $40 copay, and then you do this, and it turns out this is out of your coverage area. So now you have a $90 lab fee to pay, and it's just incredibly tedious and overwhelming. It overwhelms me many times, but nevertheless, it's this is what freedom is, and some people just can't handle it. That's why they're trying to destroy it. You know, it's a quality of the progressives. It's like it's too much work to be free. It's too much effort. It's pretty much pithy way of expressing it. That's how I feel. I think progressives feel it's just too much effort, too much work to be free. So they'd rather have things done for them at the price of their freedom. So you may find that. I'll tell you one thing I suspect you will find. We'll move on to the good stuff now. I've not been to Lithuania, but I would be very, very surprised if this didn't happen. My expectation and fond hope is that you will just be blown away by how friendly people are. That if you're anything like most Europeans I've met, the friendliness here will be suspicious to you. It'll be something you just can't really credit, that there's got to be some kind of ulterior motive. It took Natasha a long time. She not to notice it. She noticed it instantly when she came to visit. She said, "I've never seen so many people smiling and happy," and that was the biggest compliment you can pay a country, I think. But you may really be surprised at how genuine it is. Oh, okay. Been to the U.S. Several times and shocked by that. That's a good thing to be shocked by, because it's actually real. We're not joking when we say "Have a nice day" or "Hey, how you doing?" We're not. This is the product of having been free and being left alone and not being corralled into camps or having your country invaded. It tends to make you a pretty nice guy. And I know that many Europeans are very, very warm and deep people under the surface, but it takes a long time to build that trust for them. And when they see Americans as openly friendly as most Americans are, it's a bit of a shock. But hopefully it'll be a real pleasant shock. I have a good friend who moved to Georgia from a foreign country. He moved to Georgia about 2 years ago. Used to live in Los Angeles, but he's gone back to America now. And he told me that for the first month of living in Georgia, after living in LA for 35 years, he said, the one thing I never stopped saying during my first months here was, "They let you do that?" That's really it. They let you do that here? Yeah. Again, this offer void in California. But generally speaking, all of this stuff. You definitely want to get yourself a firearm. You're not going to need it. And the reason you're not going to need it is because virtually everybody has firearms. This is the deterrent thing. You're a vet, so this will not be news to you. But I've seen people converted on the shooting range. I've seen people who are either very pro gun control or very, very progressive. Doesn't happen all the time because, first of all, it's hard to get them out there. But when they actually fire a weapon and they see how careful people are, it's a profound experience, and it is I know a lot of people who are watching this show have just tons and tons of guns. We got, I think we're probably 5 in our house, or maybe more, of various calibers and barrel lengths. But in any event, the first time I went to a gun store, purchased a firearm after my mandatory 10-day waiting period, put it in the car and came home, and I was cleaning it, and and just, it's sitting on my bed and I'm just looking at it, and really, and it's a 45 ACP big silver piece of artillery, and puts out a muzzle flash the size of a garbage can lid. But I'm looking at this thing on the bed, and it really is a profound sense of holy cow. An this word is so badly mangled, but I don't know what else to use. It is an awesome feeling. It feels just unreal. And for me, just for me, the feeling was not like, oh, it's like, this is a very serious responsibility. This is a very serious responsibility. This is for adults now, uh, you know, and 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 I almost said, I can't believe they let me have it. But then I came back to kind of where, we try to find ourselves, and saying, who has the right to tell me I can't have it? You know, who has the right to tell me that? Nobody. So if you're a vet, then you're going to meet a lot of people in Tennessee who you're going to get along with really well. Uh, Tennessee is just real solid country, real solid people. It's real America. You'll find a lot of people who are, pro-military. I think you'll find a lot of people in Tennessee who have the same attitude as all of us here, and I think you'll really feel at home. And I am looking forward very much to hearing this story. If you could, can you give me a rough idea when you're gonna make the move? Because it's going to be something definitely to look for. But I hope and I expect that you will feel like you're home, that you're among people who understand you viscerally, that because you understand it viscerally. Um, 6 months. Okay. I think there probably won't be a California in 6 months. So you'll have to, when you get ready for the citizenship test, it'll be 49 states, no doubt, by the time you get sworn in. But nevertheless, 8 months, whatever, 6 months, um, it'll still be a free country in 6 months. And that is something that is really fun to watch. It's fun to watch with Natasha. Uh, it was fun when I got her a pistol. And as I've said 100 times, she's a much better shot than I am. She's just deadly, deadly good shot. We haven't been shooting a long time, actually. Um, but it's not just like, hey, now I can have a gun. It's like, that's not it. It's much deeper than that. Oh, I'm in America, now I can own a gun. It's like, no, you're in America, now you are responsible for your own life, your own safety, and the safety of your family, and the safety of your neighbors. And you have a sacred obligation to not use that weapon other than in the cause of good. I know it sounds Boy Scouty, but that's pretty much my sensation of it. It's like, I have now in my hands lethal force. Um, Lethal force. And this is the sensation I had when I was looking at the gun the first time. I realized I now have lethal force, lethal power in my hands. And it wasn't just a question of, you got to do the right thing, and it wasn't just a question of, oh wow. Here's really what it was. It was a sense that you're a grown up now. It's like, when I was a child, I acted as a child, but it came time to put away childish things. You have this freedom to be autonomous. You have this freedom to be an individual. Whoa. What the hell was that? I thought it was a power outage, but my phone just went buzzy. Come back. Come on. Hang on. I got partial lightage here. Hang on a minute. I think somehow. Let's get that. So way too. Let's get it a little bluer, please. This thing hasn't seen the. This one light is not talking to the network. I wonder if that light went bad. Anyway, now I'm warm on one side and last chance. Let's see if this doesn't work or not. No, it appears to be on its own. Yep. Hang on one second, just because it's going to bother me enormously. Let's see here. So one of the lights got knocked off. Aha. Got him. Okay, we're back. I think this is my hue light controller, which I love. I love the hue lights. I love the ability to just dial in any color temperature I like. They're very, very cool, especially for the house. And I think if you've ever had a smartphone, you've pocket dialed or you've butt dialed people with just combination of pressure against the screen. You make a phone call to somebody. I think I just butt dialed my light control switch. So I felt a buzzing, and then it got dark. I thought, ooh, okay. Anyway, so this, Julius, honestly, this is the kind of thing that just makes my job wonderful, and the quality of the people I surround myself with is just amazing. Not the people who are watching this show, needless to say, but I'm talking about my celebrity friends, good-looking people I hang out with. But seriously, it's great to hear that you're coming, and I have no doubt also, by the way, that there will be people from the BillWhittle.com crowd in your area, and we love to hang out. I know that the gang had a little hangout last night. A bunch of Strato loungers and Aurora Republic citizens. Captain Jax and Merlin and Foghorn and a couple of others, and I'm sorry if I forget the names, but yeah, they just get together and had a good time, beer and pizza. Sounds like fun. We're all very lonely, and we have lots of free time. All right, so let's have a look here. Time, yeah, I'm going to do maybe one or two more. Call it a day or a night. David Crean, writes, did you ever meet any Star Trek writers while working in LA? Do you have any favorites? And it's funny, because I looked at that question. I was thinking about it for 10 seconds, and I thought, well, of course I haven't met any Star Trek writers. David, the show went off the air in 1967. 68, I think. How could I have known writers when the show went off the air in 68? And then I realized, oh, wait, there were some other shows that came afterwards. No, I haven't met any Star Trek writers. I've met a few writers that I admire. I had a chance to sit and talk with David Mamet. That was fun, especially as a theater major for you, because he's the best writer living, and just a huge fan. So that was a real kick. I don't get to meet too many writers, and the thing about writers is writers are not. It's not like, oh my God, that's the guy who wrote the Star Trek episode. 69. That's right. It was 66 through 69. It was Lost in Space. It was 65 through 67, I think. I don't know too many writers, or if I have met them, I was not aware of it. And by the way, Hemingway, I think it was Hemingway, was talking about Mark Twain, and he said that the idea that a person who would be a writer would also be able to be a performer and a presenter, an entertainer, a lecturer, somebody on stage. Hemingway said he couldn't comprehend it. He said he thought that the two personalities were 180 degrees apart from each other, and that having a writer who was good on stage was just unimaginable to Hemingway. I have no reason for bringing that up. But I have met a lot of celebrities, and I've had a chance to meet a lot of celebrities who are on the team, and that's especially fun. It's incredible to have to discover. I mean, it's not just incredible; it's just simply mind-boggling to have, to find out that Mike Rowe and Robert Duvall and John Malkovich are fans of yours. It's just enough to just knock you over. I never get tired of it. I never get tired of it when people come up to me in the airport and say hi. I never get tired of it. It still blows my mind. And Mike Rowe, yes, exactly, among many others. So I haven't met any Star Trek writers. Every day that goes by, I mean, I haven't watched network TV in many, many, many years, many years. I'm not saying that to brag. It's not like I'm so busy reading my Chaucer by the fireside. It's just that I haven't watched network TV in a long, long, long time. I watch an awful lot of video every day, and I pretty much exclusively watch YouTube because I love user content. I mean, the series with Awaken with JP that I was talking about earlier, that's hilarious, it's brilliant, and there's a number of people out there that are just brilliant. I just found another channel called The History Guy, I think, and he basically just looks at these odd little forgotten things in history, 7 or 8 minutes on, the Halifax explosion or something like that, and yes, it's true, Eric. I can't believe it either. It's absolutely true. At least he was 10 years ago when I met him. So it is. I will tell you that living in LA is kind of cool because you will just stumble upon people. Natasha and I went out to something in Malibu. It was an interview we did with Dave Rubin on Whiskey Politics, and we were out there until the sun went down, got dark, and we went out for some dinner at this really shishy little Italian restaurant, real small little place down in Malibu. And I remember just looking up from my salad, and I thought, that guy looks familiar to me. Oh, that's James Cameron, and that's Robert Rodriguez. How about that? Probably they were working on Alita. I don't know how that did at the box office, but it certainly. I don't see a lot of Alita fan fiction out there, and I don't know. Have I ever met Chris Pratt? No, I have not met Chris Pratt or Amy Adams. I have met Clint Eastwood on several occasions, and when Clint Eastwood, I got him a copy of my book first time I met him in a small meeting, and I ran down to the car, ran back up, and I said, Clint, this is, I'm sure, something you can use to, stop a table from wobbling or something, but I just want to hand it to you because I love your work so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Okay, he takes it, and then, I don't know, a month or two later, I'm standing in line at a event. I'm at the bar waiting to get a drink, and I turn around, and there's Clint. And I say, hey, how's it going? And I really liked your book. I don't know if he read it. I suspect he didn't, but in any event. Yeah, it's a mind-blowing experience. Now, this is, I think, something to the credit of, well, I don't know if I want to say to the credit, but let's put it this way. I've worked in show business since I was in college. So that's quite a while, 40 years almost. And working in show business, you get drummed into your head. It's not taught to you or anything. It's just something you observe. And that is that people in show business have a certain kind of a protocol when dealing with celebrities. And usually that protocol consists of not saying a word and pretending that you didn't see him. And that's usually what happens with me. I certainly didn't go up to James Cameron or Robert Rodriguez. But sometimes you'll meet people who mean so much to you. And Billy Mooney was the case I mentioned, I think, a week or two ago. Bill Mooney, I saw him, it was as far away from me as this camera was. He was eating lunch. And I think I told you about how I went up and said hi to him and told his son that his dad really changed my life and a lot of other lives too. But just the other night, what was it about? It's so hard not having Natasha here to give me the answers to things. Honey, when were we at Little Tony's? Was that, so is that maybe Sunday night? She's not here. I'm just pretending. But we were going into Little Tony's restaurant pretty late. It's open till 1. It's a really great pizza place, Italian restaurant. And I'm walking in, and as I'm walking past the light, I see this guy who. This is the thing about celebrities. You see them. You're pretty sure it's them. Some people you just there's no question about. But most of the time it's like, God, that looks an awful lot like. And this guy was outside the restaurant. He was standing up against the light post, and I looked at him as I went by, and he looked at me, and then I kept walking. And I've had that look before, not as many times as he has, but I had that look before where people are looking at you. You're in a restaurant or something, and people are like looking at you. They just like, do I know? So anyway, I walk past the guy. I get to the door. It's probably 5, 6, 7 steps, something like that. And I'm just saying, no, just let it go. And then I just had this desire to not. So I just as I got to the door, I turned around and he was maybe, I don't know, 20 feet away from me, something like that. And I said, I'm sorry, excuse me, are you Fred Willard? Are you Fred Willard? And he says, yes, I am. And I said, I just wanted to tell you, sir, you're a comedy genius. I think you've been making me laugh since Fernwood Tonight. I think you're just really brilliant, and I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate it. And he said, well, Fernwood Tonight, well, you got a good memory. So there you go. Next thing you know, I'm just like, that was Fred Willard. And then I went back afterwards. That's why I never watched network TV and why I watched a lot of YouTube. Went back to YouTube and watched a couple of episodes of Fernwood Tonight. And Fred Willard is a comedy genius. He's the best in the world at what he does. And what he does is he plays the idiot, and I mean idiot, who's so confident and sure of himself. When you listen to him doing the narration in Best of Show, the movie about the dog show competition, when you watch him making these comments, and he's just so thick, he's so incredibly dim, and it's not even dim, it's like, clueless is the word, clueless. And so I, for the rest of the night, I'm sitting there going, that was Fred Willard. That was cool. And that will happen to you anywhere. Car wash, anywhere. People have to go out and eat here, and in on the other side of the hill, because we're Valley Commandos, but on the other side of the hill, it's more common. I was at an where was I? It was, I want to say it was I actually don't remember. I want to say it was an optometrist's office. But it was a medical office. I remember that. And I was in there for a while, and it was not a place I've ever been before since. I had to go in for some kind of test for something. This is 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm sitting there, and I take a seat. You know how it is in doctors' waiting rooms. They're so close to each other. There's only one seat open, so I sit down, and sitting right next to me is this very tall, dark-haired young woman. And just without even, I didn't have to glance over there. I just thought, well, that's Sarah Silverman. And okay, it's like, clash of the force fields. I had the same feeling when I saw Janine Garofalo before I was doing the PJTV stuff. I was in Aspen covering the Aspen Comedy Festival for my previous employer for Sunday Morning Shootout, and then I walk into this lobby, and they're running a live radio show for Air America, the left-wing talk network. And I'm 3 feet away from Janine Garofalo. And she's going, this is before I started doing, after Eject, but before PJTV. And she is one of the most repugnant people out there today. And she's really just she's just a vile person. She got a very unique voice. Um, Sarah Silverman actually made me laugh out loud because she was on Sunday Morning Shootout, and I was the editor, so I see everything. You know, the cameras are rolling. Before and after the conversations start, and she was there on set, and I think there was somebody else on the. It was like a little small panel, two or three guests or something, and either she was telling the story or this happened in real time. I suspect she was telling the story, but she said somebody, because she makes all kinds of jokes about everybody, and this black guy came up to her, kind of half joking and kind of not, and said, "Hey Sarah, what is it you have against black people?" And she said, "Have you ever met one?" I just I did not accidentally summon you. What is going on here with this? I don't like you just. I don't know what the hell's going on. My phone's being controlled by remote control, and I just laughed at that. I thought that was funny, and but most of the time she's just shock. She's just trying to shock you. It's just this kind of meta comedy where it's just like regular comedy, only it's not funny. And anyway, uh, it is a strange thing, and it's strange because now I get to some very much smaller degree. I get to be on the other side of this, and this is what's going on right now. Uh, some of you, for reasons unknown to me or anybody else for that matter, and undoubtedly suffering from some form of mental disorder, but there's some people who've watched pretty much all of these Stratosphere launch shows. There's over 200 of them now, and they're 2 or 3 hours each. And I talk to you as if I'm looking at you, and I've met a number of you. And when I talk into the camera, I visualize those faces, and then I think about I've met Foghorn and Times Judge or Matt Lloyd, whatever he goes by, and I think about those people who I've actually met. Then I immediately stop thinking about that because that's give you the willies. And then anyway, and then I meet people, and and I understand the dynamic, and I love it. I think it's great. But people come up to me and talk as if we know each other. And for me, and this is what's different for me, on celebrity, an actor, take Ted Danson just as an example. So Ted Danson is on Cheers, and Ted Danson is in your living room for 10 years. You see him every week. You've seen all the jokes. So when you see Ted Danson, you feel like you know Ted Danson, and you just want to go up to him and say hi. We've spent a lot of time together. Not in a fan kind of way, like I know everything about you. Just kind of like, oh, it's Ted. This guy's come into your room and made you laugh. And he feels familiar to you because you've seen him again and again and again. But that's for actors and celebrities. When you deal with an actor or celebrity, you feel you know them, but you don't know anything about them. You know the character. You know Sam Malone, but you don't know Ted Danson. The nice thing for me is it's different for me because when I meet people who seem like they know me, I feel like I know them too. It's, I'm a Strata Lounger, I'm a member or whatever, and I just feel like, oh, of course you are. Good to see you. How you been? And these are people that I've been talking to, and that's what we do here. We just actually it's a one-way conversation, but it is a face-to-face talk. I'm not acting here or performing or anything. Anyway, that's that. Let's see. I know. I have to do this or else I'll never hear the end of it. Hang on a minute. I think this will be the last one. This is how people. This is how the country falls apart. I'm experiencing this right now. It's like I just don't want the trouble. So, where the hell is it? I'm not going to keep everybody waiting much longer. I'm just going to take a quick. What I'm going to do is refresh this page, and then I'm going to look and see for a question, and then that's what I'm looking for, Eric. See, God, I knew it already. Hey, did the lights go again? They're getting. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. It's like if I don't answer this question for Eric, it's just gonna be, you'll never hear the end of it. Um, where are you? Facebook is taking a long time to load these days. All right, so here we go. I'm going to check it one time, and that's going to do it. Good Lord. View 27 more comments. All right, hang on. It's not the Stratosphere Lounge if there's not dead air. I don't see it. We'll get to it next time. I don't see it. Anyway, I genuinely don't see it. Maybe it's because I have to search for all questions, but I just can't do it. So I'll look for it next week. Eric, I am going to start to hit the dusty highway because I've got to drive tonight. Need to get home and see my beautiful wife and prepare for our little journey. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon. I plan to do a firewall a week. It's going to be particularly tough this week because Scott is going to be here Saturday, Sunday. I'm sorry, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and I usually I'm going to shoot it Monday morning, but I'm going to try and do one a week. I'm not going to try to do one a week. I'm going to do one a week. We just absolutely have to rebuild this membership base, and this is the product. This is what people signed up for. So I had fun doing the Why Johnny Can't Think. It had been 10 months. By the way, one of the reasons that I just got so burned out on firewalls, I just needed time off. I just done hundreds of them. But one of the things that really got to me was because of this was 10 months ago, because of the adjustments that are made by our overlords. The one I did prior to this was Kanye West Racist, and I thought that was very good. And it got seen by 60,000 people, 70,000 over 10 months, 70,000. And I thought, man, that's just depressing. But lately, just so you know, after working with Scott, not that Scott put this in my head, but this is what's going to happen. I look at the numbers, and some of these people are getting these huge numbers, and they earned them. They earned them. I'm not complaining. I'm not arguing. They earned them. There's no question. But I've started to look at this in a slightly different way now. It's no longer a question of how many views I got. I spent 10 years chasing views. What is actually becoming important to me now, for reasons I will elaborate on briefly, and then it'll be a good close for the night. Now I'm going to be making content for members. I'm going to be. I don't care how many total views there are. I care how many members there are. And that's just because this is my livelihood, and this is the business, and so I am just going to be what I probably should have been from the beginning, and that is just really much more member focused. I'm going to do it. Just about everything is going to be for members. Firewalls will go out wide. That's one of the reasons people are paying memberships. It's not going to hold the firewalls back. But as I think we might have mentioned, I suspect what we'll do is make all of the Bill Whittle Nows and all of the right angles essentially members-only content, but we'll do a 2 or 3 minute lift, a tease, and put it out there. It sounds so cutthroat and so I don't know. It feels almost like like against the entire mission of trying to spread the word. But the reality of it is, we have many sources of income, as most people do in this economy, and one by one they've just been peeled off. And the membership has always been the base of it and always been the foundation of it, but a number of other things that basically keep this place going. And one by one they've just basically peeled off. And the last one to go is the ad revenues, which is it's about a tenth of what it was a year ago. And that's just because Facebook and Google and YouTube don't like people thinking on their own. So this is the economic reality of it. So here's the thing, though. I mean, I'm really stepping up the delivery thing. I know, obviously, I have a serious consistency problem, but we haven't missed a Bill Whittle now in 5 months now, 4 or 5 months. We haven't missed a right angle since we started them 3-4 years ago, unless there was like a technical error or something. So I've got to do one of these a week, and I actually like doing them. I'm going to keep them simpler. I'm not going to put in nearly as many graphics, but that's actually good too. And then we're basically going to do it for members, because there's so many people watching these videos, and they're not paying for it because they don't have to, and somebody has to. And the members have been so unbelievably, consistent and tolerant and understanding and patient and all the rest of it. We talked about, I survived the 2018 thing. I might do the Rubin Report again, too. I see people. I'd love to do Joe Rogan. I just don't know how to get there. Anyway, so I'm going to be going back to the basics, putting out the stuff that people signed up for in the first place. And the one thing that Scott really made clear for me is this sense of community. So what we're really actually selling now is, and this is really blossoming in real time on the website, and that's the sense of community. So Scott has set things up on the new website so that you can make your own posts, write your own blog entries, link your own stories, all of it. And so people are making connections over at the newbillwhittle.com site. And we're going to be rolling that out. It's just going to go live, but we actually decided, well, I didn't, Scott did, decided maybe we should test it first. So what my plan is to basically rethink this thing, because if I had a dime a click, I'd have $8 million. And we don't have $8 million. So very small number of people are making it visible for a large number of people. And because of the economics changing and the way they're closing in, the reality of it is I simply can't afford I cannot afford to have that many people watching content without paying for it. That's just the numbers. That's all there is to it. But I'm always so grateful for our members. And so we're going to start a big Remember campaign. And this time I think we really do have a lot to deliver, because what we'd be talking about now is 20 right angles a month, 20 Bill Whittle Nows a month, 4 firewalls a month, plus a website with your own identity, your own ability to blog, connect with other members. And when I say this is what we're selling, I don't mean this in the cynical way. I mean, this is our product now. This is what we're producing. And what we're producing is not so much my commentary as we are marketing a community of people, a little army, a pack. That's it's what we're selling. It's what we've always had at the Stratosphere Lounge. I mean, we get 2,000-3,000 people watch the Stratosphere Lounge, but there's only, like right now, wow, there's a whole 71 people watching it as we record it. So virtually almost everybody who watches this, I know a lot of those people are members, but very few people get to watch it live. But the point is, we learned, hey, you know what? I'm just going to take a second. Merlin, if you're still watching and you're in the comments section, let me know if I can share with people that text you sent me about that incident you had a little while ago, because I thought that was really really woke me up quite a lot. So anyway, it's going to be a great experience for everybody. We're still going to get the word out. Thank you. So as you probably know, Merlin, our friend Merlin here, has been a big part of the Aurora Republic game and Star Citizen. And we do have a Discord channel for Star Citizen. And several weeks ago, we heard that that Merlin basically announced that his wife had been hit by a car and run over by a car, and she's a rather tiny person, and that she was in the hospital in critical condition. And the first report was he didn't think she was going to make it. And here's the thing. So the Aurora Project and the Stratosphere Lounge is almost a one-to-one overlay. I'm glad to hear that, Foghorn. So he makes this announcement on Discord. I heard about it about 2-3 hours after it happened. And by the time I hear about it, our entire Discord channel is talking about nothing about it, nothing else about it. And Lisa, who's I really think is the most valuable player. Honestly, she never played video games in her life, but Lisa she's just been great. So Lisa and others, and Lisa starts organizing prayer groups and things like this, and everybody rallied and sent a lot of prayers and a lot of goodwill and a lot of talk with Merlin and keeping his chin up. It turns out that she got through the first night, and then the next day she was significantly better. And within 2 or 3 days, according to Merlin, people are just amazed at how quick her recovery had been. And I believe she was there last night at the Aurora Republic meeting that they had with Foghorn and a bunch of other people, because Foghorn said that she's a lovely person, and I'm sure she is. And I'm pretty sure I saw her, because I did take a look at the little 360-degree camera view of the gang, just panning around looking at people. So I think I saw her in the background. So if she was there, great. So the good news is she was able to go out last night with the gang and have pizza and beer or chicken wings or wherever the hell they were, and that is a pretty quick recovery for something that looked really, really scary in the beginning. But the reason I bring all of this up is, in the middle of this, I want to say maybe the second day, this is well before she got out of the woods in terms of her condition. Merlin sent me a text and said, I've never met people like this. And I said something to the effect of, I've never met people like this either. I always make some kind of deprecating joke about that because the whole thing is so amazing to me. But I'm not going to do that here. I've never met people like this. Natasha's never met people like this. These are the best people I've ever met. The people who are Strata Loungers and members and Aurora Republic people and longtime fans, maybe not members, all of that. But this community is a pack that, and not a wolf pack because those are disgusting. But it's a group of people who have the two things that I talked to Scott about. I said, what are we selling here? And it occurred to me that there were two things, and I knew the first one, which was common sense. And common sense is deep wisdom. Common sense is not like intellectualism light; it's actual wisdom. So we're selling common sense. And then when we were talking, it was about when we were talking about the Ruth Bader Ginsburg thing. and we do our backstage show live. We don't do it live. We do the backstage show where we talk about what we're going to talk about. But needless to say, even before the backstage show starts rolling, we're talking to each other, getting ready, getting set up to do the backstage show. Then we shoot the other four right angles, and and we were talking about this, and I realized that that we really meant it. That Steve and Scott and I were not just saying it because it was going out in the air and sounded good. We genuinely did not want any physical harm to come to that lady. We fervently would like her to leave the Supreme Court, and she's done an enormous amount of damage, but we're not the kind of people that want people to die because we disagree with them politically. That's largely the domain of the left. There's some people on the right as well, but in any event, we're not those people. And when you come up with something that's sounds sympathetic or something to somebody like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, there's going to be people out there who are so wrapped up in the politics of it. They're going to, they're going to be like, "Oh, you're sellouts. You have no idea what she's." Yes, I do have. I have a very good idea what she's done to the country. But there comes down to a point where it's just plain wrong, and that's when I realized that that's the second thing we're selling. This little studio produces common sense and decency. That's it. And common sense is a practical intelligence. I've said before, every now and then I get off a line that's really not too bad. But I've said, that intellectualism is intelligence that's been left in the back of the fridge for 10 months. And we have actual intelligence, and the people who are part of this pack are incredibly capable people. Burt Rutan, one of the most brilliant guys in the world, and Brent Regan, and all the rest of them. On and on and on and on, and this person, 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 but Foghorn, but Matt Lloyd, and this person, and so it all actually works out as a general rule. But it is an astonishing group of people. It's a small group of people, and so to the degree that I actually have a business plan, my business plan is to let Scott handle most of the business. That's the genius of me at work here. But the business plan is to grow this family, because that's what it is. I think it's public now. It might have gone up today. Scott asked me some personal questions on the last Bill Whittle Now, and I talked about how heartbreaking it was to not be able to go to Thanksgiving anymore, because I would go and I wouldn't shoot at anybody. I had my guns in the holster the whole time. They kept poking me. It was pretty progressive liberals that were hosting this big Thanksgiving dinner for my entire life. It devolved onto them, and they just made it so uncomfortable for me I couldn't go back there. And I said it just broke my heart. It was just terrible. And that's when we were talking about it. And, it's an old saw, but it's true, you don't get to pick your family, but you do get to pick your friends. And we were talking about that, and it's like a family. And so also, as Scott pointed out too, the entire mission here is for me to try and find a way to boil down ideas that don't belong to me and never belong to me. The ideas are far older than me and going to last a lot longer than me. Try to find a way to express them in a way that people can understand it today, and then give that ammunition to you guys, and so that you can go out there and spread the word and so on. So I am hoping, and I'm not going to say hoping, because hoping is like trying. I want 5,000 members by the 4th of July, and I want 10,000 members by Christmas. That's a lift, but it's not a crazy lift. It's not impossible. With 5,000 members, we would be getting by. We could survive on that without any of the ad revenues, which get smaller and smaller and smaller. But 10,000 members, we would be prospering. And we're at the situation now where so many people find themselves, and that is that there's so much more we could do if we had the resources, but we can't get the resources until we do more. So 20 right angles, 20 Bill Whittle nows, 4 firewalls, and an active website community, and in exchange for $9.95, which is 33 cents a day, I guess. It's significant money, and of all the people, all the day-to-day things that I have to deal with members, the one that just breaks my heart is, and not just breaks my heart, it just makes me unbelievably proud. We lost a number of members because we had employed top-level cryptographers to make sure that no one could figure out how to give us any money. But that is behind us now, and so occasionally we'll get people who will say they have to cancel their membership because it's around 2,000. They have to cancel their membership because financial hardship or something. Scott told me about a letter from somebody who said they had to cancel because they had to move out of their apartment and going to be living in a garage or in a tent in the backyard of her sister. And so when I hear that, I just feel so I'm so moved by that. So Scott handled it, and he handled it exactly the way I would have handled it. And when I found out he did it, I knew that this was the guy who I really love and admire, and I need to be working with. So what Scott did is exactly what I would have asked him to do, which is he said we're gonna comp your membership for a year, and in a year let us know how you're doing, and if you're doing better, great. If not, then we'll comp it another year. We can't really do that for every single person, but this was somebody who wrote and wrote from the heart. I was in Carmel, and gift subscriptions, yes, lots of things. But I was in Carmel, and a gentleman up there had heard I was coming up and contacted the office and asked if it'd be possible to chat for a little while afterwards. And it turns out that I always chat with everybody, try to be the last person out of a room at a speaking event. Anyway, I went up there and I met this guy and his lovely daughter, who was in her, I want to say, early 20s, I guess. And he says that I'd really helped her in college, really rough for her. She was a conservative in college and stuff. And I thought, what a honest God, pleasure and joy to meet these people. And I just felt so good about it, as I always do. And then I came home and I got a letter the next day, and it was from this guy, the father of this daughter, and he included a picture. Let me see if I have it. I must have it. This is worth it on the desktop. This is very much worth it. So give me a second. It's just these things. There it is. So here's the story. So this guy sent me this picture, and here's the story behind the picture. This young lady who I'd met, who was very lovely, had some extensive brain surgery. I don't know if it was brain cancer, but it was extensive, and it had really been touch and go for quite a while there. I'm just going to put a tag on this, so it's okay. So she sent me this picture, and I will tell you the story. So give me 10 seconds to load this picture because it's going to be pretty straightforward, I think. do that. And then we do this. And then we do that. And there it is. I'm going to drag this out. So here's the story. I know I should put some kind of background back there, but I'm just going to leave it in front of me. So here's the story. This young woman, incredibly articulate, very smart young woman, had this brain surgery, and she wasn't able to talk for a year or some long period of time. She lost the ability to speak, but she didn't lose the ability to draw. And so she drew the Gadsden flag, and then she drew Pajamas TV, and then she drew Firewall. And I'm in the process of getting this picture blown up and putting it on the wall, like on the size of the wall. These things are, there's no price you can put on this, and there's no number of views, and there's no, there's nothing. You can't put a price on this. And what was that? I thought it would go back to, hang on. Oh, okay, I got to click it off, I guess. Oh, come on, Billy. Why is this so hard? Scene. Okay, got it. Hang on. See, with a little bit of, with some members, we could have engineer. And so, this is the kind of thing that just makes you feel like you've actually, your life is worthwhile. And I hear this quite a bit. So that is the kind of people that we attract, and I would love to. I'd love to push it out to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. But right now, we need to get to 5,000 members, and I'm going to also have an opportunity for people who either don't like the idea of recurring charges or can't afford them or whatever. We're also going to have an ability to make like a one-time donation, like to NPR or something. Just if you can pitch in to help cover the cost of some of the things you're watching and can't do the membership thing for whatever reason, then that'll be something we want to do too. But anyway, that's the revelation really of the last several months, brought to you by largely by Scott Ott and mostly brought by Natasha, who always tells me things 9 months before I discover them on my own. The option of sponsoring someone. That's a very good idea. Anyway, she's much better now. I just want to let you know. I had no idea. I mean, she was just as graceful as could be and gracious. And anyway, that's basically it. It's an amazing group of people, and if we can take this kind of attitude, this attitude of practicality and hard work and reward and freedom and all the rest of it, and mix it with just decency, just decency, then I think that might be something that would be good to have, and maybe we can push it open. Steve Darrow, that's very, very, very generous of you. And if you can email Scott or Shelley at info@billwhittle.com, we will make that happen. Steve Darrow here right off the bat immediately says he's going to sponsor membership for our friend Julius, American who's coming here from Lithuania, who's on a tight budget right now, and I certainly understand that. So, so boom. So the membership thing is going to change. It's going to be virtually everything is going to be members only now, and the firewalls will go out to people wide. We may give the members a chance to watch it first for a week or so, unless it's really hot. But the firewalls will continue to go out wide. Billable nows and right angles are usually 10, 12, 15 minutes, and those are going to be available to members. And from those, we will do a 3-minute, 2-minute lift as a tease and put it out there and try and take the best part of it and put it out there. But that's what we would like to do. Anyway, yeah, and now people are just volunteering to chip in. It's just absolutely amazing. So I was going to do a Kickstarter campaign, a GoFundMe campaign, to make up for some of these ad revenues. But Scott convinced me that since this is a membership model, we should be trying to get members. And if you want to make a one-time donation, we'll be able to do that too. So we'll start pushing that out. But we're starting to understand it now, I think. So anyway, that's about it. I think that'll do it. Yes, it certainly will. Time for me to go home. I feel like I should go home and get some rest, go to bed, but I've got some traveling to do. But we'll be just fine. So once again, thank you for another great evening and the great questions. Julius, welcome home. We're looking forward to seeing you, and we're looking forward to taking you out and getting you some barbecue and some sweet tea. I think probably you'll find that once you get to Tennessee, sweet tea will have made the entire trip worthwhile. Anyway, I think that'll do it. So thanks for joining us. Thanks again for the members who, as always, we are just enormously grateful to. And we will see you next week right here on the Stratosphere Lounge. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.